Hi everybody, welcome once again, and in today's video I am going to explain you the concept of consumer's equilibrium in 1 and 2 commodity case. You can expect at least 2 questions from this topic in your CUET exam. 1 and 2 commodity case falls under Marshall's approach, and in this case if we assume that the consumer is consuming only a single good, then the condition for equilibrium is that the price paid for the good, let's suppose that the name of this good is good X. So the first condition is that the price paid for this good is equal to the marginal utility derived from this good X. So the price and the marginal utility for the good should be same. And the second condition is that the marginal utility should fall as the consumption increases. Let's understand this with help of an example. So these are the units of good X, and along with this marginal utility of good X is given. Now, according to the condition, the price of the good, which in the given case is rupee 10, should be equal to price rupee 10 should be equal to the marginal utility. But we need to understand here that the marginal utility here is given in terms of utils, whereas price is given in terms of rupee. So in order to make both of them compare, both of them, we need to convert the marginal utility in terms of rupees. So the marginal utility of X, which is given in terms of utils, we need to convert it in terms of money. Basically, marginal utility of X in terms of rupee or monetary terms is marginal utility of X divided by marginal utility of money. Now, what is marginal utility of money? So basically, the utility that we derive from money is in terms of the goods and services a standard unit of currency helps us to buy. So, marginal utility of X divided by the marginal utility of a rupee gives us marginal utility of rupee in this case. We have assumed that the marginal utility of money in the given case is 1, and therefore if I convert marginal utility of X in terms of money here or in terms of rupee, in monetary terms, basically marginal utility is now converted into monetary terms. Marginal utility of X in monetary terms is basically mu of X divided by marginal utility of money, marginal utility of a rupee in this case, which we have assumed to be 1 only. So here we'll get the same values. So in the given scenario, price of X is 10, marginal utility is again 10. So that means the consumer is in equilibrium at third unit. Now before this third unit, if we look carefully, marginal utility here is greater than the price. So in this case, the consumer will keep on consuming additional units till he attain equilibrium. And a question might be asked from this, where they may ask you that if MUX is greater than PX, how the consumer will react. Then in this case, the consumer will increase the consumption of good X. This is the equilibrium. And after this point, as we can clearly see, that MUX is less than price, because the price of the good is 10 and MUX is 40 and so on. So basically in this case, the consumer should decrease the consumption of good X. Let's look here at another example where instead of 1 as the marginal utility of money, let's assume that if in the question some other value is given, let's assume that marginal utility of money now is 4. And similarly, the price here is 4. So, first we need to find out marginal utility of X in terms of money. So, we need to divide 20 here by 4 for each unit. So, it's 5, again 4, 3, 2.5, and last but not least 2. So, since we know that the price of X is 4, and we have to equate it with the given condition. So that means the consumer is in equilibrium at second unit. Here, before second unit of output, since MUX is greater than PX, he will keep on consuming till second unit. And since after second unit of output, the price of X4 is greater than 3, 2.5, 2. So he should decrease his consumption. So basically we need to equate, technically we need to equate it as price of X is equal to marginal utility of X, but then to ensure that the marginal utility of X is also in monetary terms, we are dividing it here by marginal utility of money. So based on this, we can say that the consumer is in equilibrium at second unit of output. So here in the given case, as we can clearly see that MU falls as consumption increases, price is constant. So this is the equilibrium point. The price of X is equal to marginal utility of X. In this diagram, we can also see point of satiety. That means as a consumer keeps on consuming additional units at this particular point of satiety, marginal utility is 0. And after this point, if he keeps on consuming, then marginal utility will be negative. Now here we have two commodity case. See, generally in real life, consumer hardly consumes one good, he consumes more than one good. So it's like we can call it as law of equi-marginal utility. So in this case, if the consumer is consuming two goods, X and Y, and since for good X, we can write it like this, that the price for X and the marginal utility, and if we express it in monetary terms, marginal utility of X, as we have done in one commodity case, we need to divide it by marginal utility of money. So this will be the condition for X commodity, and similarly for Y, price of Y is equal to marginal utility of Y divided by marginal utility of money. So since we can rearrange this, we can write it like this: marginal utility of money is equal to marginal utility of X upon Px. Similarly, we can write marginal utility of money here as MUY upon PY, and from both these conditions we can say that since marginal utility of money remains constant, we can rearrange this equation as, or this condition as, MUX upon PX should be equal to MUY upon PY is equal to MUM. So in this case, two commodity case, the condition for equilibrium is that the price, the ratio of marginal utility of X upon price should be equal for both the goods. So if the consumer is consuming two goods X and Y, the ratio of marginal utility upon Px for one good should be exactly equal to the ratio of marginal utility of the other good upon price of other good. Though it doesn't mean that the consumer will be consuming the same units of X and Y, it simply means that the satisfaction derived, the ratio of satisfaction derived for each additional unit and the price should be equal for both the goods. Now since we know that the marginal utility of money remains constant, we can rewrite this equation as MUX upon Px is equal to MUY upon Py. In fact, you will find that mostly in exam this condition is asked in this form itself. So for the sake of simplicity, if we assume that the price of both good X and Y is equal to rupee 1, then, and if we divide MUX upon PX and MUY upon PY, we'll find that the values remain same, because if we divide all the values of MUX by 1, we'll get the same values. Similarly, if we divide all the values given here for MUY by PY, we'll get the same values. So instead of making two separate columns here for mux upon py and the muy upon py. I'm just using the same columns. So based on this, we'll find that the value of mux upon px is equal to muy upon py at this level, 12 and 12, then 5 and 5. So basically there are two different combinations where we'll find that this ratio mux upon px is equal to muy upon py. But the consumer will be in equilibrium only at one particular combination. So if we look at 12 and 12, it means that the consumer will be in equilibrium when he consumes 3 units of x and 2 units of y. Because the ratio of mux upon px is 12 here, then it is 12 here. So this means that the consumer will be in equilibrium when he consumes 3 units of x and 2 units of y. Similarly, the second case is where mux upon px and muy upon py is 5, 5. It's like at 5 unit of x and 4 units of y. So, but we have to pick any one combination. So we have like additional conditions here apart from this particular condition. The second condition will remain same as it is, as we have seen in case of one commodity case, that marginal utility should fall as consumption increases. And there is one more condition. We can represent it in this form. This means that the money income of the consumer, the income of the consumer which he is going to spend on these two goods should be equal to the total expenditure on both the goods. Total expenditure on both the goods. Now let's assume that the income of the consumer in the given case is 5, and given the condition that the income or the money he is going to spend on both the goods should be equal to the total expenditure. Let's see that what will happen if the consumer tries to consume this combination where the ratio of mux upon px is 5. So that means in the given condition, given case, price is 1, number of units of x 5, plus here he can consume 4 units of y. So what we find is that the consumer cannot be in equilibrium at this uh, combination level. At reason being, he is spending more than what he could actually spend. So he cannot be in equilibrium here. Now let's look at this combination. Now let's look at this combination 12. So here again it's like 1, and then we have 3 units plus again 1 multiplied by 2 units of y, and now the consumer is in equilibrium since the total expenditure on both the goods is equal to what he could actually spend on them. Now let's say a combination or now let's say in the question a condition is mentioned where mux upon px is greater than muy upon py, or let's say the ratio of mux upon px is 5 and the ratio of muy upon py is 4. So how should the consumer react in this case? Since the ratio of mux upon px is greater than muy upon py, the consumer will consume additional units of x and not y. Why so? Because when he will consume additional units of good x, in accordance with law of DMU or law of diminishing marginal utility, satisfaction from good x will decrease. So since right now it's 5, as consumer will increase his consumption of x, it will fall down to 4 and he can achieve equilibrium level. Similarly, if the ratio of muy upon py is greater than mux upon px, so in this case he will increase consumption of good y so that the marginal utility derived from good buy should fall, and again he can be in equilibrium position where MUX upon PX is equal to MUY upon PY, so that the consumer can be in equilibrium.